So I'm actually really getting annoyed with what's happening recently now, and the actual truth and reality of what they're actually doing to us, these oligarchs who don't, they're definitely not Christians, they're Scientologists, they definitely don't have any religion. The only time they use the word sacrifice is when they're sacrificing like mice and rats and lab animals, which they think they've got the right to do, just for the benefit of knowledge, right? I think what they're doing is they're trying to break down and destroy the entire culture and religion, because the entire culture and religion is our democratic and our constitution. Without the constitution, we don't have any rights to oppose them freely, or even speak out freely, or even vote, collect signatures to oppose them in the governing rules and policies, right? Now, the governing rules and policies of their businesses, right, are not abiding by the law, because what they're doing is they're getting us to accept consent, accept every single thing that they want us to do, right, and give up even civil liability to sue, which is effectively like privileges. This is what barons and lords had, privileges, right? But the privileges was only from the hundreds court, not from the higher courts. The privileges, we could get them prosecuted by their equals if they'd done a crime, because they've got to stand for the crime if they commit a crime, right? The law still applied to them, but they could only have a fair trial by their equals, because they might not get a fair trial with common people, right? Which is basically the hundreds court, which we had, right? The divisional court, right? It had to be, the assizes and quarter sessions usually had overlords or barons or people of title sitting them as judges, right? Or Parliament, Westminster, right? But Bill Gates and Elon Musk and these oligarchs have gone beyond privilege. They've kind of gone beyond privilege of what even the lords and barons had, because they could be judged by their equals. These new oligarchs are saying no one can judge. You can't, if you consent to accept, you agree to all their policies and things, and apparently they're evading liability, right? And also, we haven't got any power. They're doing it from other countries. How can I? I mean, firstly, we haven't got any money. They've taken all those money off us. Robert F. Kennedy says an American can't get his hand on $1,000. And then, unfortunately for Black Belt Barrister, him and all his lawyer friends, they won't do pro bono for us. They're saying we don't have rights and privileges when we try to do political things. And then they're arresting people in prison and things when they can't do it. We're protected. And then they're taking massive amounts of money off us for doing legal. That Joseph Nichols, ULEZ paid for his legal case when it's a political entity, right? They defended it as a criminal charge, and then in the Crown Court, and then now he's got a £5,000 fine. Now they're saying that they want £100,000 to appeal it to the High Court, which is insane, because there was 8 barristers in 8 or 9 bundles of law work over 3 days for the Stonehenge case, which they've lost, and that was 130,000. And there's nowhere near as much for Joe Nichols just doing a small-time crime in a local area, which necessitates 8 barristers and 8 or 9 bundles of work, what professional archaeologists do for an entire ancient site in its surrounding areas, right? So they're just lying. They're actually blackmailing us. It is blackmail, right? So we can't get access to lawyers, even if we did have money to throw. Even if you had infinite money, they don't always do what you want, these lawyers, and they're not getting it right. Keir Starmer didn't do the proper law in 2007 for those political signs being put up when he got called off the case of pro bono, when he got assigned to the CPS, right? You can't get to these big companies, because what they've done is they've positioned. What Bill Gates is doing is he effectively, it's illegal, because what they're doing is they're using all the American arsenal of companies against English people in their own country and getting you to consent, submit, accept to things even overseas. You can't get them into a court. Okay, they've got offices in this country, but it's very hard. What they're doing is it's like companies and businesses, enterprises attacking us from overseas and making us consent to their things when we're already depleted of money. We've already got lying, corrupt lawyers who themselves, they've got addicted to money, like they've got, Joe Blogg's addicted to burgers and food. He's got himself in bad shape. His memory's not working good. He can't think on his feet. He's cloudy. He's not even that fit and he can't jump around, and they've got all the lawyers on high lifestyles, so they need more and more money and they're charging more money to the clients. They've got them addicted to nice lifestyles, which they need to fund, and they won't do any legal work for cheaper. And then they've got them being very strict. My solicitor girl was way too... They won't bend, they won't... when they provide a good service or don't do it properly, they don't want to correct it or anything. They don't want to have to go do more work to correct it. And the SRA and the bar standards won't do anything to back them up. So we're screwed in the legal sector. And then you've got Black Belt Barrister who is putting potentially misleading information out. I'm actually I'm debating it with him now. And I'm not saying that everything that Vobes does on his channel is right. Vobes has had some amazing guests, some brilliant guests like that Charles Wells and William Keat, right? But Vobes has some guests on who just talk absolute tosh and are wrong. Some of the Magna Carta stuff is woke and they don't really understand it properly and they're spreading misinformation. Other parts of it they're right on and it's decent. I think that just coming on to Magna Carta, that 1700 Act of Settlement says that you can't have foreign forces taking over your country or in certain positions, right? Now, this is quite serious because it's to do with our constitution and treason and espionage, and I think that when it comes to the army and Lord Walney and the security services, I'm warning them. I think that what's been done to us is illegal from these big companies, because if you read all Magna Carta, right, I know we had that Graham Moore guy on who said, there's no racism at all in all the, don't matter what country you're from. There was certain laws about, Arabs or certain people being in this country or and things like that, and they do refer to people of colour actually in the old law. But what it says is that when people move to this country or they come here, if they're aliens, right, they have to become naturalised, right? There's this term of naturalisation. That's in law. You can absolutely check this up and you can confirm it, right? Look into naturalisation through the Magna Carta and the early charters and laws, and then you'll know what we're talking about. Why naturalisation of aliens or denizens, right? Because we've got ancient customs. We've got ancient customs and beliefs, and this is what Graham Moore says, we are natives, and we have a country, and we have a people, right? That's what it is. It is something. That's why it's a country with its people. It actually is something, right? That doesn't mean that you can't have immigration or whatever, but Graham Moore was right. Naturalisation means they become naturalised to this country, and that means our customs and beliefs, mainly at the time through Magna Carta and so forth, when the religion was more stricter, to the religions, although they were having disputes about Christianity over Protestant versus Catholic. We were even cutting people's ears off if they didn't agree with it. And then they become more accepting to other branches of Christianity. But that's the national religion, right? But the national religion is entrenched in the law of the country, the law in the procedures of the courts to swear in the Bible and to say prayers when you're petitioning Parliament. If Black Belt Barrister gets into the word naturalisation and understands what it means in law, right, to become naturalised, and the fact of the religion being entrenched in law, the basis of the jury in Magna Carta can judge them on the law and apply it, or by their own opinion, and they can forgive them, right? That's Christian jury, okay, being allowed for in law, because you had church courts, remember, and the whole thing's based on the Christian religion. It's entrenched in it, okay? Sometimes we had Catholic or Protestant kings, right? But both those religions share, both those religions compared to other religions have a lot. They only got very small differences. Let's say that, right? Now the thing is, once you follow this naturalization basis, right? This is why. Why wouldn't you want to have? Look, just think this logically, right? This is just like pure going by law. This is law. This is what we're learning law now, right? If you had, right, a Muslim Arab, for example, right, who just came into England and then he was the king, right, and the archbishop, and a Muslim priest became the archbishop, what's going to happen then, right? Because the entire law of the country is set up for the religion, Christian religion, and forgiveness and so forth, right? And what happens if suddenly you all, let's say Arabs just completely replaced the population, but the laws were for Christian people, and they didn't believe in, this Christian thing of forgiveness. It can't function, can it? Because that Magna Carta won't actually work in a courtroom. None of them might ever forgive them. In fact, they might be even more vindictive. So that's not going to work properly. And there's a reason for that, okay? Because they'd have a different religion and different beliefs and different customs, right? We had different customs for hanging people, and those customs, at one point, they were cutting the people's ears off for punishments and so forth. You could argue that, ancient custom is hanging people, or cutting their ears off for punishment. You could argue that, right? But generally, those are forms of punishments which are written in law, and that was a big thing to do with the Pope. That was a big thing to do with the Pope banning all those punishments, and they had their inquisitions and all that kind of thing. They've still got exorcism in the Catholic Church, right? Now, it was actually the Christian Church that realised its wrongs and phased all those things out, right? Okay? Mainly because of their forgiveness. I mean, if they didn't have the forgiveness, then they probably wouldn't have even phased out their own faults in the punishment system, right? But the important thing is, for when it comes to prayers and customs, and even the character of the people, like I said, countries have characters and so forth. Now, if you've got people coming in and they marry people in this country, and then the kids grow up and go to our schools here and learn our religions, that's called naturalization, right? They become naturalized to the customs and beliefs of that country, right? Now, if you get people coming in too quickly, and they're not naturalized quick enough, right? The country's gonna get unnaturalized people in, right? And that's the problem we've got now. And we've got unnaturalized people in government. Priti Patel is an unnaturalized woman because she's coming to England and got up into the government too quickly, and she doesn't have our customs and beliefs in law, like Mickey taking and our comedy and humour fully, and the rest of it. Because she's naturalised, and also part of naturalisation also is part of absorbing the culture and taking it on and becoming like us. Now, look at Sadiq Khan. He sounds like a Londoner because he's got the accent, a voice, right? But a parrot can talk, a parrot can talk. He's still an Asian man with a London voice, accent, but he was grown and born in London, and he's a lawyer, and now he's the mayor of London, but he's still an Asian man, and him and his children haven't yet, they're not fully complete become white, right? That's naturalization, right? So he's still an alien, which that's what they call it in the law. If you look into the law of all those ancient institutes, they refer to them as aliens, right? Now we use aliens, the word, they've moved the target of the word away from persons from other continents and nations, and they've moved it to like UFOs. They've moved it to like little green men and space fiction. That's actually fiction, right? And they've stopped us using that word for people from other foreign countries, which is actually confusing, because now it's like there aren't any the aliens are up in space. This is the thing. Now, this is all law. Now, what you've got when you've got all these different what we've been doing in the law is saying to everyone, right, we're not going to have prejudice against these other religions. We're going to accept them. We're going to accept these religions coming in, right? But what laws they haven't done is made, if we accept all these different religions coming in, and we're not going to, what they call prejudice against them, right? They don't want us prejudice against them. They want us to accept them. But what they didn't do at the same time as that, what they didn't do is make laws for them, laws for aliens coming in and moving to England. They didn't make laws for them not to prejudice our customs and religions, okay? And that's why it's an attack, because we've got no defence. They're coming in and they're saying accept. Basically, like these corporate entities, accept, submit, consent, right? So, we've got mosques, we've got, Buddhist temples, we've got all these things being built everywhere, accept them in. And there's all these new laws being put up, but where are the laws for them saying that they can't prejudice against our customs? Like if you want to have a joke or a laugh, right? Or, like it says, praying for the Christian. Now, this is when those ancient customs and religions come into it, because this is what some of the things that they've been talking about in Verbs, some of his guests, and sometimes they do talk tosh, other times it's true. That Graham Moore guy knows his stuff about it a lot more than what I do, but some of them have been getting it wrong, but some of it's important. In the Magna Carta, which is meant to be still in effect, and the Charter of Liberties and the Charter of the Forest, and they cannot be repealed because of the confirmation of the charters, right? It says that we have to uphold all the ancient rights and customs. And in England, that includes the religion, the entrenched religion. Now, part of that entrenched religion is that you pray for people when they're dying, right? You pray for the souls that are passing away, right? It doesn't matter what age they are, who they are, or what religion they are, or whatever, right? You pray for the dying, okay? Now, there is an argument that you say, well, only Christians pray for other Christians because other religions are not believers, right? There is an argument for that. I'll give that to Priti Patel. If there's a Muslim or an Islam woman going to an abortion clinic, they're not Christian. So, like the Mayor of London is not Christian, so if they're not believers, then why would you be praying for them? But this is the thing. It would, I'm pretty sure that in the Christian faith, you'll have to, this is actually now why it's quite important for people like the Pope or Archbishop of Canterbury to this is why, I don't know that much about religion, but this is the part that I do know. This is why I need to read it. If I don't know all the Bible, I'll have to learn it. But I think that I'm pretty sure that the Christian faith does pray for everyone, even if they're not Christians, even if they're not believers, because they're always trying to get people to forgive them for their sins. This is like Christian Fellowship, like the Christian Fellowship Church that is like the usually like regarded as the weird or odd church. Is kind of like always, trying to get people to join. It's always asking you to, you get Christian faith people coming up to you saying, I want you to be in heaven, not with me, they're trying to convert people. Let's say that's the term. They're always trying to convert people. In a way, these people who are coming in who aren't fully naturalized, in a way, because they retain some of their religions, in fact, they're keeping their religions and practicing them, in a way their religions are undoing our religion, in a way. In a way they are really trying to get us to give up our religion. Give it up. And that is a form of conversion, right? It is a form of conversion. So really, Priti Patel and Sadiq Khan, they're trying to convert English people to not forgive, because remember, if you tell a joke and take the mickey out of someone, you can be forgiven, and also, so I do think if we read the Bible and check it up, check it up. You'll have to check it up. They've got it in the court. If you go into court and put it on the Bible, you can open it up and say, just a minute, I need to check this, right? I think that Christians are usually out to convert people who aren't Christians. So I would have thought that you pray for them to be converted. I would have thought, or pray for them to see the light or whatever. So I would have thought that you do pray for, or pray for their salvation. Pray for them to be saved, because there's always a chance of them being saved. So, this all needs arguing out in the church. Remember, people have had their ears cut off for these debates and arguments. People have been hanged for these debates and arguments by the king. But remember, if you're pursuing a legal case, you're not allowed to be prosecuted. But you weren't tried by the Hundreds Court, and you weren't tried by the Assizes or the Quarter Sessions. It was the king, the Court of High Commission, because you were saying things that he didn't like religiously. And really, that's what Priti Patel's doing now, really, and Khan. What they're doing is Priti Patel's like, this country's not going to take the piss out of anyone anymore, or say anything, religious or non-politically correct. You're not going to pray outside these clinics. That's what the king was saying. The king was saying, right, we're not having this talk about Catholics, or not going to challenge, the Bible or whatever. This is John Bastwick and Henry Burton. You can check it. This is like classic John Bastwick and Henry Burton, right? And really, so you're allowed now, it put a stop to that. It's the right of the subjects to petition the king, and all prosecutions and commitments for doing so are illegal, because the king was the only one who was prosecuting them. Because if you're bringing a case, if you're bringing an argument, you're protected because you've got a just cause and you're trying to prove it in court. But the king wasn't even saying, he wasn't like not even letting them argue that. He was like prosecuting them for even challenging it, right? So this is the problem that we're in. So like, with the praying outside these clinics, even if they're not Christian, I do think that the Christian faith itself, this argument will come down to the Bible. If the Bible says that you can pray for non-Christians, then you can have it, you can do it, and they can't stop you. And that is a custom of this country that is entrenched in Christian law in the courts, right? And Priti Patel cannot take that away in the act. That act is incompatible with not only convention, right? It's incompatible with constitutional law, the Magna Carta, and all judgments against the Magna Carta. All judgments against ancient customs of England are illegal and void, right? And that's not such a big thing now, because half of these protester prosecutions are because we've got privileges and they're being denied. He even says it. We've got all the acts now, all the privileges acts, confirming it all, citizens. And it's not even from 1688 Bill of Rights. This is like, all the way back. This is like proper, 16. We've got 1620 petitions. It's a thing. It's a proper thing. Is that it's not a 1688 Bill of Rights thing? It's an actual thing. When it's to Parliament, anyway, it's just like the police at a higher level, and it's not criminal law. It's getting the law changed. So outside the abortion clinic, I don't think that act is valid in the same way that I don't think the Public Order Act 2023 is valid, and they've written it and that cannot apply to when you're using English privileges and rights. It can only apply to, like I said, if you're in a park and you get kicked off the park and you want to protest against the police for taking you off the park because some ice cream man won't serve anyone and they're getting angry. Or if you're at a music festival and everyone's throwing bottles of piss around and, they say, right, everyone get out of the festival, and everyone wants to listen to Oasis, and they protest that they want to get back into the O2 Arena to listen to the rest of the Oasis gig. That is a protest under human convention rights. And the police writes out a dispersal order, senior police officer puts it down, right, everyone out. He's written it in writing, he's made an order, everyone get out. And if they want to stand on the boundary of where the police have got them off to and hold banners up and say, let us back onto that Oasis gig, right, that is a peaceful protest because they haven't got any right to use force, okay? So the police have made an order and they think it's dangerous under the law, right? But if the police are breaking the law themselves at any point and using force, everyone else can use an equal force against them to defend and protect themselves. And that is, you don't need to be doing a petition to do that. And if the police are going around fining people illegally, which is not lawful, you don't have to prove it in a court. If you've got reason to believe, evidence to show that what the police are doing is criminal, illegal, then you can stop them and you can use force against them to stop them, equal to doing it. And when it goes into court, then you prove that is when you argue reasonable force, right? And that's the argument that they've been using for all these protesters. Was it a just response for a climate crisis? Was it a just response to the police when they were breaking the law? This is the thing. That is arguing reasonable force. You're arguing, that you had a lawful excuse or reason, right? But you can use that right to bear arms without it being a matter of church state law or political. You can just use that whenever anyone else is breaking the law. It could be the police, it could be anyone, right? The peaceful protest isn't really using anything because that's why it's peaceful, right? The peaceful protest is peaceful because you are doing what you're told, right? But you're only protesting by holding signs up and you're objecting to it. You're saying to the police, look, you can argue and, when they say call me a lawyer, you can say to the police, you're just making it up. There is no threat, there is no harassment, withdraw the order. It's tosh. You can say to the police officer, there is no danger here at all. Where is it? There is none, right? Then you're debating with him, right? And you're protesting against his dispersal order that he issued, right? You can protest that peacefully. You're not using any force, right? That is a peaceful protest in law. That is not, like what Graham Moore said, you're not using powers. You're not saying, right, well, I'm taking this to Parliament, or the thing with the right to petition is you've already got a case or a cause that you're pursuing in the first place before you start, and you can't be obstructed from that or arrested. And that's the thing, because the cognizance of it is with Parliament, right? So you can go about doing that without being stopped. And it says all prosecutions against you are illegal, all of them, right? So you effectively are like a policeman on a mission, right? And that is the same as when a policeman is chasing, you know, what happens if, right, police kick everyone off an Oasis gig, say get off, it could be dangerous, and then the next thing, the gate flies off the entrance, and an armed robber comes in with a flashing police car flying after him, chasing him, and then, loads of people get mowed down, and they said, oh, well, you said get off because it's dangerous, and now, someone's, this is the thing. The police are always, the problem with the police is now that they've got a monopoly on law. And, they're the ones who are coming out with all the legislation. But when you come out with it, then, it's like, casting, like casting magic, and it doesn't, the magic spells always work when the police say them and do them. And when you ever say it and do it, it doesn't, in most cases. And that's the thing, when it's meant to work, it's meant to do something. So yeah, I mean, when you're using rights now, you can petition about matters of church, state, and law. So it can be the church, it can be this matter. You could try and get Parliament to change this act, or even say this act is unconstitutional. It's against convention rights, or even it's against the Great Charters and void, right? You could say that, when Parliament put this order through, and the King gave it assent, it didn't go to assent because it's against Great Charters and therefore have no effect. But the thing is, what you can do at those abortion clinics is, if you've got a case to Parliament to get that law changed, right, and you are promoting that campaign to get signatures, it is impossible for it to stop you getting signatures outside that clinic to get the law changed for it. That is absolutely certain. You can't stop you getting signatures from people outside that clinic or putting banners for it. It's not possible in law, because you've got a right to do that. That's powers, right? But most of these people, like this guy who's been prosecuted, this guy that Black Belt's talking about now, he wasn't pursuing getting the law changed, but he's just praying. Now the thing is, so what are his rights as a Christian, right? What are your actual rights as a Christian to practice that religion in this country? And what does it entail? What does it require? Well, Christians do pray for people who are passing away or dying, right? That's part of it. And this is really the meat of the argument that I've got, the main part of it. Therefore, it is not only in the customs of England, but in the practice of the religion to do that. In fact, that is what the religion is. What is this religion? You pray for the dying. Now they're saying that you can't pray for the dying here or there. Well, but, you don't pray for the dying, but not where anyone's dying. Can you imagine then, all right, let's say Priti Patel said, you can't pray for anyone who's dying when where they're dying, right? Can you imagine that one? Priti Patel puts a law through saying you can't pray for anyone who's dying when they're dying, or near them when they're dying, right? What would happen then? Or she might put a law through that only Christians can pray for other Christians when they are dying. But then again, would Christians have an abortion? Who are getting these abortions? There's all arguments over abortion anyway in law to do, between all these different religions. I'm starting to think now that they're wanting to actually they're dismantling the religion. I mean, I don't really have an opinion about female priests in the in the Church of England. I don't really have an opinion on it, but I think that it's likely part of this breaking it down from what it was. Although women will say, well, it's just more equal rights. But, that the whole suffragettes thing with the women's vote, that was tosh, because women did have a right to vote. Women have always had the right to petition. Women have been doing petitions. It wasn't that bad for women voting for members of parliament and MPs, because they've always had the right to petition anyway for things, right? And they just didn't vote because it was kind of just like more of a custom. Because law didn't prevent them. It just wasn't a done thing. It was all really women not voting, right? They were actually allowed to vote, but it wasn't just women. It was more land, if you own lands or not. There was only a short period when women officially in law couldn't vote, which is the Representation of the People Act in its initial phases, right? But they've always had the right to petition in matters of church, state and law. It was kind of like, I think the way that in the 1600s and before, I think politics itself, and men going to Parliament and then men being judges, it was kind of a little bit more like men play football, women play hockey, or women knit, and, men go to work and women look after the kids. It wasn't necessarily like just a legal thing. It was just because, maybe most women weren't that interested in it, And now they are, and they want to do all the things that men are doing, right? In fact, they don't even want to be women anymore. They want to be men. They want to mix it up. But if you, a thing is what it is, right? Sometimes, when you've turned a square into a circle, it's not a square anymore, right? Is it? And sometimes a thing is what it is. It's a thing. And by the time these new woke people have changed things, they're just not what it is anymore. Some men like to hang around with men, and go to men clubs and smoke, cigarettes and, talk politics and man things. And that was what it is. And now we've got all these women in Parliament, and, they've got different ideas of what the law should be and so forth. And also non-naturalised women. They aren't fully naturalised. They're only partially naturalised, and also a quicker and quicker rate. A faster and faster rate. A faster and faster rate of immigration, so it's getting more and more numeracy of people who are less and less naturalised, and this is causing havoc to law and order, because firstly, we're having more crimes. England had a certain level of crime, right? Okay, and percentage for how many people there are, fair enough. And there were certain crimes like the Great Train Robbery, or certain frauds, or the aristocracy, arguing over their estates or whatever. But, there was a status quo of crime. Now, crime did go up when they built the cities, when they built Birmingham and Bournville Chocolate Factory and, London and everything. There was a crime increase, and they addressed that in Parliament before we had this increased naturalisation issue or denaturalisation issue. Crime did go up, mainly because there were more poor people in higher frequency in the urban areas, right? They did address that in Parliament. It's in Hansard. They talk about it. But the peerage and the government, they were happy with that, and they said, we'll take the hit. Well, we're enjoying all these new things, these new products and manufacturing, even though at that point, remember, a lot of these things, really weren't good for us, and that's when they should have, stopped before they started. But they thought, we like these things, like all these sugar candies and these humbugs and whatever. We'll go with this. And we'll pump it up, and we'll have more and more, pump the smog out and so forth. We'll go for it, and we'll take the hit, he's having his big chunky cigar, and he's, got his estate, and he's got his books, he's got his shipping company, and he's, importing, tea or whatever, and, he's got a big house and estates, and the crime level's gone up in the city, as Tony Blair says. That's their problem, right? Someone else's problem, right? And they've said, well, we don't mind this crime going up because, we've got big fat chunky cigars and, big manor, and I've got 10 shipping companies, so we'll take the hit, right? We don't mind it. That's their problem. If I'm protected, I've got my peerage, and we've got the police constables, that's the people in the city's problem, that they've got more crime. And by the way, more crime, more fine. More crimes, more fines, we'll get the policing on it, not just having the citizens policing themselves anymore for the odd crime. We've actually got a dedicated police force, for all these poor people that we're increasing the rate of. So, just a lot of irresponsibility, really, and, rushing into things, not thinking about it. It's just this technology taking ahead. And then, I think, the religious part of it, there was a lot of religion back then, because that's what they used, really, to try and deter people from crime, but also not to, have this, this sense of, retribution is a forgiveness. I mean, crime is retribution, but apparently it's said that, juries were quite forgiving back in those days because, quite severe penalties, like, being hung or whatever. So, now, so with the praying, let's try to get back to the main point of it. You have to take the Bible into the court, I would have thought, and I don't think any of these legal cases they are doing. I don't think they're going into the court with the Bible, even though it's already in there. You don't need to take the Bible in if it's already in there, is it? It definitely would be in the Bible because, it's going to... I would have thought it's Magna Carta and the Charter of Liberties and the confirmation of the charters. If you can prove in a court that Christians, which is an entrenched religion in England, it's an entrenched religion, and in fact the jury's based on it. If you could prove that praying for dying people is an ancient custom of England and always has been, and that is actually part of Magna Carta and the Great Charter of Liberties and the confirmation of the charters, and therefore it classes as a Magna Carta contravention. If it is a Magna Carta contravention to stop someone praying for a dead person in this country, then, I can't see how that act is valid. But this is the thing that Black Belt's not challenging the act or the law or the MPs because, a barrister doesn't challenge government in law unless it's at the Supreme Court. I think you can do it at the Supreme Court, Well, it's whether the act is the act lawful, not whether, the thing I think with Black Belt is he's arguing the defendant, trying to prove the defendant's not guilty based on the law. But there are processes where you can prove incompatibility with convention rights, or just prove that the act is invalid. It's not. The act is, dud. It's of no effect. It's not just orders by courts and judges. An order put through the Parliament, if it's in contravention to the Great Charter, is not valid. And that's the case with some of those Criminal Law Act 1967 repeals. Privileges, which we're looking into now, because you've got peer privilege, which is that they can only be fined by their equals, which is why you'll find in these petitions they're not in the hundreds court, in the divisional court where we are frequently. They're all in the assizes or quarter sessions, and they're still arguing about privileges or Westminster Hall. And those assizes and quarter sessions, which are only 4 times a year or twice a year, and they're not so frequent, they were usually sat by knights or other peers. So it would have been their peer in there and that's backed up by the Privileges Act. It says that it's got to be a court of record, which we know that Magistrates Court, so the 100 wasn't a court of record. Magistrates Court is not a proper court of record. The Assizes and Court of Sessions are a proper court of record. I think Court of Civil Requests, but I'm just learning all this now because I've only just found the Acts. So, you know, can they stop a Christian? Well, you know, what there aren't really that many things that you do pray for now anyway. I mean, most English people who aren't heavily Christian, who are just very loosely, generally lukewarm Christian, they'll go to funerals, they'll go to weddings, they'll, they might pray when someone's getting, usually if they're getting married, if they're being born, blessing a new child, or go to christening, or if they're dead. And then that are the main three times when the average English person who's not devout Christian will pray. Is at a funeral, that's when someone died, at a christening, when someone's born, or at a wedding, when someone's getting married. So they're the three main skeletal principles of when you pray. Unless you're a Christian who goes to church a lot and they'll pray every Sunday and when they're singing carols and at Christmas as well. Let's not forget Christmas, and then you got all your Easter, Lent, blah, 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 and those festivals or whatever, there are many. You either, put it this way, if you're quite a, if you're in with Christian groups, if you're proper full-on Christian, right, then you're going to be praying a lot all the time and about all kinds of different things. Even just, someone, pray they get home safe or whatever, or pray they, don't fall down the stairs like Laura Ashley or whatever. And if you're not a full-on Christian, but if you are, this is the thing. This is naturalization. This is the national religion. It is in law, in the legal system, whether you like it or not, whether you are a full-on Christian or not. You put your book in the Bible and swear when you go into court. You can't not be. It's the religion of the country and the king and the freaking Archbishop of Canterbury, right? It's the average person is lukewarm unless you're Richard Dawkins and you're an atheist, right? And even he sings hymns, right? It's what is the bare minimum, right, for a slack Christian on praying is births, weddings, deaths, right? The main three, right? And Christmas, which is like, whatever. Don't even really pray. Oh, blow your candles out on your birthday, make a wish. Is that a prayer or a wish? That could be argued in court. Are you praying when you blow your candles out and it's your birthday? Is that a prayer? Is everyone saying a prayer? Or are you making a wish? And that is not a Christian thing. It's, Nights of Arabian Nights or something, right? This is the thing. That would be a good argument for black belt barrister to argue in court. Would be a brilliant case. I'd like to see that happen. Are you praying when you blow your birthday candles out, or is it a wish? Right? What is the difference? Right? So, we know they're the bare minimum three, right? So, and where would those places be prayed at? Well, a christening or a birth would be either a hospital or the christening. And Christmas would have to be at the time of Christmas, not a place, but a time, right? So it's a time of year. It's not actually a designated place. It's a time of year, right? And then, wedding is in the church when you get married. Is there anyone now who objects to this wedding, speak now or forever hold your peace? Is that religious? It's happening. It's happening now. We're there. It's going on. It's happening. Here's your chance. It's happening in a church. It's the right place. And it's the right time. And now the priest says, if there is anyone now who objects to this, who's a bit of law now, speak now or forever hold your peace, right? Could you say that when a child's getting christened? If there is anyone at this christening who objects to this child being christened, like a horned devil might pop up from, behind a pew or something, like AC/DC or, Tropic Thunder, like Jack Black might, pop up, or, AC/DC, is anyone now who objects to this baby being christened? Speak now or forever hold your peace, right? And then the other place is when someone is dying, right? Usually they're already dead, they've gone at the funeral, but, you're going to, it's ceremonial, right? So this is the thing, right? When someone's left the world or leaving the world, and that is usually at a place. So this is the thing. If someone's going to an abortion clinic and a child, whatever, is going to be killed, dying, right? Is that the right place and or time to pray for it? And are you objecting to the abortion? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Now, I actually, now thinking about it, think that it is an attack on the Christian religion. And I think they're trying to dismantle it, these Scientologists, in the same way they're trying to dismantle his entire legal system by getting us to consent, submit, accept to all this policy stuff to say that, you can't sue them or you can't take action. That they're taking away your right to even bring a suit. And these aren't even members of the House of Lords. It's not even Walney who says that we should pay, thinks we should pay to protest, Bill Gates has probably got more privileges than any peer he's had in the history of the world. Yet Elon Musk is still managing to get his platform, banned from South America. Maybe Musk has not got that much faith. He's got really terrible lawyers, don't seem to be able to get a handle on this free speech thing. If they can't get a handle on it now, I don't even know how it end up getting into the law of their constitution, I think that we actually are under an attack, and I'm of the, it's going back to this whole thing again. I'm getting really pissed off with YouTube, big time, with Neil Mohan, and also with Microsoft now, this other guy, because they're just pesting us. There is stuff happening in life. You've got your lot, right? Whatever your lot is, you might be rich, you might be poor, but you've got your lot in life, right? And the things that, are what they are, that you want them to be as they are, right? And then you're focusing on what you're doing next, right? But when you're focusing on what you're doing on next, and then the things that you've already got are starting to, fall to pieces or crumble, then you've got a problem. Because it's like, you're trying to do something while there's an earthquake or things falling to bits. And what Microsoft and YouTube are doing is they are actually dicking around with shit that, it's like you go out and then you come back and someone's been in your house and fucking moved all your shit, right? And you're like, just a minute, what's going on here? You want that to be as it is, right? All your stuff, right, is going to be there as it was when you went out and come back. You don't want other people messing around with it. But what Neil Mohan and Microsoft now seem to want to be doing is, changing your stuff while you're out. Or, and how can you go out on holiday or go anywhere or do anything when you're bare? It's like the castle and the chess piece, you have to have a solid castle, and you haven't. Because, you know, you got these people dicking around and changing your stuff all the time, right? Oh, we're improving it. No, you're not improving it. Just you know, I don't want it improved. Just leave it, right? It's not an improvement. And this is the thing. You know, I think the Christianity was meant to be basically like, kind of like a bedrock, isn't it? They've had loads of arguments about Christianity, but now they're actually, I guess they're trying to block the religion, you know. Maybe they're saying it's encroaching in other religions, but actually, you know, praying for people isn't a bad thing. So why would you want to make it illegal? I can get it if, like, you know, you've got all these... in the town centre, you used to have these religious fanatics, right? When you go into town centres and you've got Bible bashers and religious fanatics, they're always going to annoy people, right? Always. You know, if it's Christian Fellowship or whatever, you know, apocalyptic doom, you've always got the nutcase in the town centre. Now, they've always had the right to do that, right? In the town centre, it annoys people. We go for a walk around Leeds or, you know, Bradford or wherever, you know, you got religious nuts, right? Now, this is the thing. You have to put up with it, and it was just what it was. In fact, you know, maybe it's a bit of a novelty, you know, to see a fanatic flying around now and again. You know, so there's, you know, where would we be without the village idiot, without the religious nutcase? It used to maybe disturb, harass, or upset people when he said, like, you know, you can come for your salvation, or you're all the Lord says thou shalt burn in the flames, you know. If that didn't distress anyone, I don't know what does, but, you know, that's their thing, and that's what the book says, what they're reading out, and, you know, if it distresses anyone, tough, right? So, you know, what you're doing, therefore, with these abortion clinics, it's attracting religious fanatics, you know, and I can imagine that, you know, it's going to be disturbing or distressing if they're going to be saying nasty or horrible things to people who are going for an abortion, right? But this kind of praying silent or even praying at all, right? I don't see how you could really stop them from praying, you know. And at the end of the day, if those people wanted to, if they weren't retarded, right? Let's say those people at those abortion clinics suddenly were enlightened and suddenly were enlightened with knowledge, and they realised that, oh, actually, if I do this a legitimate way, if I start collecting some signatures and get Parliament to get rid of this dumb law, rather than just standing there and moaning at the, you know, people who are going for an abortion, then I actually could do it legitimately and not get arrested, you know, or prosecuted. But the thing is then, is you've got the model which is actually a little bit like the park. When I said, you know, if you've got like the Oasis Stadium and they refuse to play the songs and everyone kicks off and then the police writes a dispersal order and they move everyone out and then everyone's like, you know, got signs saying, you know, let us back on, we want to listen to Oasis, right? That is a peaceful protest. You're not using any powers. Well, that effectively really is kind of a little bit like, well, what the government have tricked everyone. They've kind of deceived everyone to think that all protesting is that, when it's not. Some of it is actually legitimately petitioning with powers, right? And really that's what they're doing. I think that's the way they're playing it with this abortion clinic thing. They're playing it like peaceful protesting, and they're saying you can't do it there. It's a bit like a dispersal order, like the police officer writes a dispersal order out in a football stadium and then everyone has to get off, right? Which, if you educated all of these religious people and said, oh, did you know, by the way, that actually you can do that if you're petitioning the government to get that stupid law changed, because you can ask people for signatures out there and have the banners for it, you know, stop abortion, then they can't stop you because it's in the Constitution, then they would be doing it lawfully. So it's all about education. So again, the government are trying, you know, then, you know, the whole thing's gone because through knowledge, right? Which means that the government are not doing it properly because they've tried to con everyone and do it a stupid way. and it's just stupid, dumb convention rights that you've got all the time. Anyway, like right for freedom of expression and so forth, unless a police officer writes an order out, puts it on the floor in front of you and said, right, move, right? But then unless you write a similar order out and say no, because I'm collecting signatures for Timbuktu. This is the thing. But saying that, what about this religious thing though, for praying anyway, being there? Well, I actually don't think they can stop you actually praying, and I don't think you can be prosecuted for it, because it's an ancient custom and religion, and that's against Magna Carta. They might be able to say, with all this kind of like doom and all this religious fanatic kind of like over the top kind of stuff, because that might not be classed as praying. If you were, if there's a religious fanatic in the centre of the town and he's shouting, reading the Bible out, he's reading the book. He's got a right to do that. But that isn't he isn't necessarily praying there. He's actually recruiting. He's trying to convert people. I don't think on the Magna Carta, I don't think you can stop people from praying in the religion when there's someone dying, because that is its purpose and function, and you're actually stopping you're stopping its purpose and function. You're actually making the religion illegal, and that is actually practicing the religion. You're actually practicing the religion, right? Can you imagine if, I'm trying to think of an equivalent, like the prayer mats look, how about those prayer mats they've got right in the factory, right? You get, Muslims or whatever, or Islam, and they got the prayer mat and they get it out in the factory. No boss stopped them from doing that, right? That I know of. They were allowed to get the prayer mats out. And then McDonald's actually started letting them wear the burqas and certain religious hats, like the Jewish hats. They haven't stopped them doing that, have they? Notice that we're not allowed to stop them doing that. McDonald's had to let them wear those hats in McDonald's and the burqas, right? And I think this whole pandemic thing with the mask over the face, covering your mouth up not to talk about it, is definitely some kind of weird distraction thing going on. I'm not too sure what the arrangements currently are for Amazon factory for Muslims or Islam for that prayer time thing. I don't think Bezos can ban it. I'm not sure if he has or not. That you're in the right area of law with that, and I know that you've got employment law is not like, those dispersal orders, but it shows that can the government stop someone practicing a religion anywhere, whether it's in the workplace or outside an abortion clinic or wherever. I don't know if they've made any laws to stop, because there might be someone from those religions who's kind of like gets prayer mat out and pray, stopping them from doing it as well. But I am. We're talking like 1998, 1997, 98, 99 maybe. I definitely know they were getting prayer mats out in factories. I don't know what arrangements they've got for Amazon. Don't know what Bezos is doing with it, because he's like really funny with all that type of stuff. But I would have thought, unless you make them do it outside, like they've got the smoking thing outside, I'm not sure. I don't, because the government are all for this kind of like accepting of religions, and not discriminating against it. But now they're starting to actually stop them doing them, which is why it's kind of like it's like, you know, coming to the disassemble Johnny Five. You know, come into the factory, Johnny Five. We are welcome. What is this place? Oh, we're just trying to dismantle you. You know, it's like coming to be dismantled. You know, if they are still in law, if the government currently are reckoning they can't stop people practicing their religions, either in the workplace or in a factory, I'm pretty sure that they can't stop you from praying when there's a baby dying, because that is its purpose and function. Or else you wouldn't have praying. The main three, the primary prayers in use for the average person are coming into the world, at a wedding, or going out of the world. And if you don't have those three, then it's not prayer, really. I don't think, unless it's Christmas, which is not really proper Christmas anymore. It's just kind of like a consumer fest. I can see where the problem is with all those fanatics, but you know, you get that problem anyway. You just like, you know, if that's it's gonna be a fanatic magnet, then, you know, isn't that saying something? Maybe they should have secret clinics. You know what I would have done, to be honest, to solve this problem. If I'd have been Priti Patel in the government, I would have had. I would have done it completely different. I wouldn't have brought in all these dumb laws and stupid things. What I would have done is I would have had like I would have had abortion. I would set the NHS up, or doctors, so that you have like a moving clinic, which you don't know where you're going to be going until you get the letter through, right? And you know, it's like now they're trying to find out where these immigrants are going, what hotels are they in. No, people are trying to find out, and they just learn. I mean, this whole thing going on, you know, in the Middle East with the religious, you know, procedures on young girls and so forth, you know, which they've tried to discourage. You know, no one always know where that's going on. You know, maybe they should have took something, you know, from their own, you know, ideas. You know, I would have thought, what I would have done if I was the government, right, to stop all that stupid clinic praying business, I would have just had covert clinics where, you know, there are certain clinics and they open on a rotas at different times, and they keep changing the rota, and then the woman just gets a letter through, and then who else knows except her which one's going to be up on a certain day or where she's going to. So you don't actually have you know, the fanatics who just camped outside the clinic all the time, like camped outside Sadiq Khan's house. That's what I would have done. But, you know, seeing how our ministers are all retards and they're not fit for purpose, and they can't think of any way to make a law up except in a legal way. Hey, let's make a congestion charge. You know, you can't do that because there's ancient Liberty of London. No, that's somebody else's problem. It's Ken Livingstone. No, it's Ken's problem. No, don't worry. No, that'll be Keir Starmer's problem in, you know, 20 years. Don't worry about it. You know, it's all right. Hey, Ken Livingstone, you can't do that. Oh, don't worry. You know, that's someone else's problem. It'll be Keir Starmer's problem when he comes around. You know, when people figure out that I can't do this, it'll be Keir's problem. You know, why not think of a way to do it that's lawful? You know, rather than going against trying to ban people's prayers or whatever. You know, you'd have thought that people could have figured out they've got, you know, English constitutional rights and the right to petition privileges, can they figure that out before they can figure out where the clinic is going to be next on what given day, unless you then turn up like Extinction Rebellion, and they just do them all at once. Even Extinction Rebellion ain't got enough people to turn up at every single bank on the same day, use some initiative. I would have thought though that I would have thought if there's like a religious fanatic shouting doom and gloom out, I would have thought that it could have come under normal harassment, because if you're praying silently, at least with your hands together, or just sat on the pavement and quiet, or in your head, it's not really harassment, or it's not provoking harassment. I wouldn't have thought if they're being kind of loud or whatever. But then again, like I said, it's dumber and dumber. But, it's a miracle that there even are abortion clinics, because I thought, Starmer wants to destroy the NHS and pull that to pieces as well, So, we're lucky that we've even gone. And I'm not a great fan of the whole thing anyway. I don't think I support abortion. They get, if the government concentrated more on contraception and so forth. But, you've got Ben Bradshaw trying to get people into anal sex, and he's probably the one sponsoring all those weird internet adverts on porn sites with also weird adverts popping up, really terrible, dodgy, mind-bending content, which Ben Bradshaw's probably, he probably likes it, all some weird stuff to bend people's minds and get them into anal sex and really, really weird stuff, which, only someone with a perverted mind could come up with it, like Stephen King. How is Stephen King, not arrested for thought crime? I don't know how Black Belt Barrister isn't even doing videos on how these novelists manage to have such perverted ideas in their head on violent scenes and weird scenarios that they think of and conjure up, and want people to spread the idea around and the thought of it, and that thought being people's heads, even for entertainment purposes, create more horror, it's, because that's the way it's going, isn't it? But I would have thought, in my opinion, I don't think that they can stop you actually just if it is a prayer for the purposes of a passing away life is the purpose of it, and that is the religion. That's what the religion's for. It's its purpose. So if it can't perform its function, then I think you're blocking it. You're actually blocking the religion. And the government claim that they're all against, they claim that, we're welcoming in these religions and we've got to accept them. But there is nothing protecting ours, There's nothing protecting ours, which I think they're just dismantling the whole thing. Everything that we stand for, everything that we're believed in, all the morals, forgiveness, the whole thing is going, and it's just going to be like we are going to be the sacrificial lab rats with the scientists pushing the buttons, with the Bezos, Musk, Mohan, Gates pushing buttons, and we're going to be the sacrificial rats with the houses that just change. You go out, you come back, your house is a triangle. Oh, I've turned your house into a triangle. Oh, thanks, Neil. That's great. I actually thought I bought a circle house. Well, you haven't bought anything because it's my house and I own it. And if I want you to live in a fucking pineapple, you're going to live in a pineapple. If I want you to live in a fucking, a giant, it's like Terminator, it's like T-2000, isn't it? Oh, I've made you a surprise. Oh, have you? Yes. I've turned your house into a giant chicken. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And Microsoft has now changed my house into a giant rubber chicken. Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Aren't you intimidated? Yes, I'm very intimidated. Well, next time you come back, it could be something like, a giant, a guitar, Elvis would have liked that, wouldn't he? Well, I can't even find my house. Yeah, well, you don't know what I've turned your house into now, do you? Where is my house? Well, I've moved it as well. Oh, where's my house gone? Microsoft has moved my house and turned it into something, and I don't know what. I've got to guess. It's like Return to Oz. Guess which ornaments are your friends? Oh, I'm not sure. You only get 3 guesses. Oh, and if you walk into the wrong house, remember, it's in America. You can get shot. They can shoot you. Oh, Neil Mohan's done a little trick on me. He's turned my house into a banana, and I don't know what size banana it is. And if I walk into the wrong house, I'm going to get shot, because I'm entering the wrong person's property. This is the thing. I really don't know where Gates is going with this, and you might think that I'm taking this to the extreme, but these people are fucking with your stuff, your things that you bought. This is a Model 369 Hi-Fi. If I want a Model 3697 Hi-Fi, I'll fucking buy one, right? I don't need you to transform it into the new model. I bought that model. You're not doing me a favour. I don't consent, submit, or accept. Get the fucking message. This is the thing.